I need everyone to stop what you're doing and just look at how small this EM780 is from Minisforum. You know, I thought some of the other mini PCs I looked at were small and fast, but this one is small and fast. It gets extra vowels. Let me just show you right now. This is just a can of thing, and here's a birch beer. Yeah, you can lug around a bunch of birch beer, or you can lug around a bunch of these. What do you think will fit in your backpack better? Birch beer is a lot heavier than this is too. Thanks to Whokeys for sponsoring this video. Now these are OEM Windows keys. That means that you do your own tech support. You're not going to be relying on Microsoft, and they're generally locked to the hardware. We got a coupon code. Click on buy now. Put in coupon code TS25. Hit apply, and that price comes down to $17.19. Now when you compare that to the outrageous prices from Microsoft, you'd have to buy this many times to equal the price of one regular key from Microsoft. As of right now, this Windows 10 Pro key will unlock Windows 11. We also have Windows 10 Home, Windows 11, you can buy it directly, Windows 11 Home, and we have two flavors of Office. Once you're finished, all you have to do is click on your user account up here, go to your user center, click on My Purchase Orders, just View Keys and Codes, then you can just copy and paste your key, hit Start, type Activate, click on Activation Settings, paste it in there, click on Next, and you will be activated. So head on over to Whokeys.com to get yourself an OEM Windows key at a price that makes sense. You know, this Ryzen 7 7840U is ridiculous. You're going to see it in a lot of laptops, you're going to see it in a lot of mini PCs, and it's going to run differently depending upon a lot of the other variables. Some of that's going to be the speed of the RAM. Some of that's going to be how many watts they're driving through this. Now, with something this small, you'd think that they're not going to be able to push that much wattage through here, but I have a very interesting custom cooling solution. I'm going to do benchmarks, I'm going to do gaming benchmarks, and I'm also going to test the heat, let it run at full power for 15 minutes, and we'll get to all that. But I want to tell you right now in the beginning, I've already done all the tests on this. It never gets like extremely hot to the point where you're like worrying about it no matter what you're doing with it, and it's running at 28 watts. Now I've seen other companies who've clocked this thing or who have pushed about 20 to 25 watts through this. Some of them are going to push more if they got a bigger device or whatever, but 28 watts in something this size means you're going to get a lot of speed. Now this also has the Radeon 780M graphics card. Now let's talk about the RAM. We've got 32 gigabytes of DDR5 clocked at 6400 megahertz. Now RAM speed does help with these AMD CPUs quite a bit, so that's going to give you a few extra FPS. This isn't the olden days back when RAM speed didn't really matter that much and just the amount of RAM mattered more. This also has 32 gigabytes of RAM, which I love to see, and I'm seeing that on a lot of these units, so cheers for the 32 gigabytes of super fast RAM. We also have a PCI Express Gen 4 M.2 in here. This one's a 1 terabyte, you can get up to 2, I think it says, and I think they also have 512 model. You can get it in different flavors and all that. All right, looking right at the front there, we've got USB 4, and that will also work with DisplayPort. If you want to run some crazy displays, we can do that. And then we have our headphone microphone combo port in the front. On the side there, we've got a vent, Kensington lock, and we've got a TF card slot or micro SD card, and then a USB 3.2. Looking around at the back, we've got two more of those USB 3.2s, a USB 4 again, HDMI, and then on the other side, just a vent. Top and bottom, we have vents, and you can crack the hood and look under the hood at what's going on. You can see the RAM slot and everything in there. I would recommend not really digging around too much. They've got their own custom cooling system that I would not want to disturb. On the website it says it's 1/120th the size of a desktop. I'm not sure what they're using, so let's say you've got a small desktop, it's 1/60th the size. That's ridiculous. You're going to use USB-C for your power plug. You'll need to use their USB-C because not all USB-C is created equally. You'll need to make sure you have enough power going to this thing, so use the included one or a high power adapter, maybe a laptop adapter will work. So if you want full-size Ethernet, they've included this. It's USB-C, so you plug it into USB-C in the back. Then you also get USB-C on the end there, and that's what I use to plug up to my wall plug. And then we have Ethernet right there. So that is going to use up one of your USB-Cs. You can plug a USB hub up to the front. Once you figure all that out, you're going to end up with 3 monitors because one of the USB-Cs is going to have to go to your AC adapter. As far as your different interfaces go, the USB 2.1 will do 4K at 60 Hz, and the USB 4 will do 8K at 60 Hz. So if you have a super high refresh rate monitor, like a 240 Hz monitor or whatever, and you want to run that at 1440p, you're going to want to use the USB 4 for that. So how do they keep this thing so cool? I'm not exactly sure. It's not that loud either. I mean, it's really quiet. You can hear the high-pitched whir of the tiny fan, but it does a pretty good job. Now, as far as under the hood, what they're doing, they're advertising their Cold Wave 2.0 cooling system with liquid metal compared to just your regular silicon is going to bring the temperature down a few degrees. So that's one of the things that they've done that's really helped this. Plus just the part being really efficient, and it's, you know, not using an extreme amount of power, even though it's, you know, pushing 28 watts through there. It's not going to go too crazy with the heat. And they also do have an SSD heatsink on their PCI Express Gen 4 SSD on the inside. All right, product dimensions. Let's talk about that. 80 millimeters by 80 millimeters by 43 millimeters. Comes with Windows 11 Pro as well. So cheers for coming with Pro instead of Home. I also want to mention that the power adapter is gallium nitride, which will keep it cooler. It's safer. It's just the new thing, and I'm glad to see that different companies are implementing that. So it's not really that big of a deal, but it will keep it cooler and quieter and all that. 65 watt power adapter. Lastly, we have Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.3. All right, let's get into those benchmarks. We'll start off with the canned ones, and then we'll get to the games and everything. I like Running Valley just because the music's so peaceful and it's pretty to look at. Even though it's a few years old, it'll give us an idea of what this 780M can do. And as you can see here on the 1080p high setting, we got 65.8 FPS with a score of 2753. So you know, if you're keeping score at home, you can test your stuff at these exact settings you see on the screen, and then see how it adds up to this tiny PC. All right, let's see how we did with crunching some stuff here on Cinebench R23. I got this on Major Geeks because it's difficult to find on their official website. Anyway, multi-core score, 12784. So check that out on your system, see how it is. Next up, we ran Geekbench, and you can see our single core and our multi-core score there. If you're keeping score at home, it's 10255. There you go. I'll scroll down so you can see all of the different tests that were performed, and just see how your computer compares to this one. There's that, and then we also did an OpenCL test for the GPU performance. 24737. Scroll down so you can see all the details. Pause it if you need to. And then there are the different results from all the different tests that it performs inside of this test. Tests inside tests inside tests. Last thing, we're going to test it with superposition. And here's our final score at 1080p on medium. Now, medium is going to be about where I would think that this could average over 30 FPS, and I was right. 33.76 score, 4513. So this one tests the GPU and the CPU because of all the physics and everything, and a medium score above 30 is pretty good. So let's see what else we can do with this system. All right, we're going to try my favorite JRPG of the last few years, Street Fighter 6. I'm going to be trying this on the setting that they just call highest. You know, as you go left and right, you can just pick one that's called highest. Here's what we have for all the additional settings. And as always, I'm going to turn off motion blur just because I hate it. I'm also going to turn off VSync. We'll do a couple fights and then we'll run around the open world and just see what our frame rate's like. In case you're wondering, I've been gaming with this. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Have a little sale. All right, 33 on the intro, 33 FPS. But, you know, let's get into it. No, it feels a little slow here. Hard to do the moves when it's running like this. But it looks really fluid. It's kind of funny. All right, so running it on high or highest is not going to work. I'm going to come over here to my basic settings. I'm going to turn off ambient occlusion, turn off screen space reflections. I'll turn off the depth of field as well. Then we're going to go over to our detailed graphics, put the lighting on normal, shadow on normal, sampling on high, bloom on standard. We'll do sampling on standard. So this is sort of what I would call a medium setting, but we are getting an okay FPS. All right, so honestly, it feels like it needs to be turned down a little bit more than this, but let's see how it feels in the open world. So I'm going to go into my settings here, and then I'm going to come over to the graphics settings again, go down to the basic graphics, and limit the World Tour battles to 30 FPS. Turn that on. This usually makes things feel a little more fluid. Okay, this feels a lot better. Yeah, this is totally playable. I mean, it doesn't feel perfect. I would probably rather play this on 720p at 60 FPS, but if you want to play it on 1080p at the medium settings, this will work just fine. So yeah, Street Fighter 6 is completely playable on this. And it does not feel that bad. Actually, it feels pretty good. Hopping into Doom Eternal. I mean, we can try Nightmare. Why not? Let's try Nightmare one time. So yeah, we're getting around 60 FPS basically all the time. Where am I supposed to go here? So Doom Eternal is completely playable. Looks good, feels good. Bye, big fella. All right, we're in Baldur's Gate. Medium. I'm going to put FSR on quality. And then we're going to run 1080p. And then run around the Underdark for just a minute. 37 FPS. Okay, it looks pretty good. This is very, very playable. I didn't actually expect Baldur's Gate 3 to be playable on this machine, but it's doing all right. You know what I figured out what the artifacting is from? It's my capture device. It's causing some issues because I'm seeing it on Open Broadcaster, but I'm not seeing the flickering on my HDMI screen. So if you see any flickering, that's the USB capture device. So since this is a turn-based game and you're not relying on, you know, quick reflexes, you'll be just fine playing it just like this. Let's try it on high. Hi, how you doing? 33, 34, dropping down below 30 here and there. So I would recommend it on medium, but not on high. But high does look really good. Most of the systems that I've tested that only have an APU have a very hard time with Baldur's Gate. You usually need a dedicated GPU or a lot of power. So yeah, it's really cool to see Baldur's Gate 3 running on a machine this small. All right, last let's try Cyberpunk. I'm trying it with a bunch of games that should be too difficult to play on something this tiny. All right, in Cyberpunk, I'm going to do a quick preset at high, which enables AMD FX Super Resolution 2.1. And then you can scroll down here, see a lot of things are on medium, the film grain on, depth of field, yeah, there we go, 80. I'm cheating a little bit right there by bringing that up, and I turn it off motion blur because I hate it. You can see everything else there is set to high. And then over on our video setting, we're at 1080p. So let's run a benchmark. Oh, we're staying above 30. Well, as soon as I said that, it went below 30. All right, so on high, I would call it not really playable, but it did a pretty good job. So there you can see 29.27 average with a minimum of 22.82. Let's go back and bring the quick preset down to medium. So on medium there, we finally have something that is playable. It's above 30. You're getting the real console experience right now. You know, this is gonna feel okay. It's not gonna feel amazing when you're doing like up close and personal melee or FPS style combat, but it is playable and it feels okay. One last one, we're going to just do a low benchmark and see how that runs at 1080p. I want you to notice on the screen right now, this is how low looks in this game. It looks a lot better than a lot of other games at high, and that's because this game has art direction. So there you have it. We have 47.26 with a minimum of 39.61. I'm going to call it 100% playable on the low setting at 1920 by 1080. It's also 100% playable on the medium setting. All right, we're locked at 60 FPS right now, but yeah, we're running at 1x resolution. And oh god, this feels good. Yes, it's perfect. It was locked at 60. It's perfect. Don't know any other way to say it. Like, what more could you want? Get off me, Toad, you ruckus-causing mushroom thing. So this game is totally playable on 1x. It's perfect. It's almost playable. Maybe with some feature updates and some optimizations, it can be playable. But it looks good. Almost plays good. It wants to stay stuck at 30 FPS. Whenever you see that stuttering in the bottom, you see the building shaders. See that right down here where my mouse is? Whenever it says building shaders and you see stuttering, that will not last like the entire time you're playing the game. Once the shaders are built after playing in for 10-15 minutes, you'll run around and build up all your shader cache. And you know, once the shader cache gets built, it runs a lot better, but it all depends on the direction you're facing. Like, there's too much geometry that direction. You know, hopefully in a future update we'll get the ability to play this. Right now, if you really wanted to play it, we could go ahead and put this in handheld mode, and now we're getting 35 FPS, and handheld mode is going to be almost as playable as the console once we build up all the shader cache. So yeah, you can run this in handheld mode. That's what you can expect right now from Tears of the Kingdom. All right, so Ada 64, if you come over here and click on the fire, I love the fact that this is a fire. And why have I not noticed that? You can get your summary, your system information, but no, click on the fire and set your computer on fire by clicking start here. Now this is going to stress the CPU, the GPU, whatever you check mark here. I'm not going to stress the GPU right now as well, just the CPU. I'm going to ramp it up to 100%, and we're going to let this run for 15 minutes and see how cool it stays, and then I'll also measure the noise coming off of this. I've been running for 12 minutes. I've got this. We're going to test some heat real quick. I want to see how hot this thing is. All right, that's the temperature of the surface of the power adapter right there, 41.8 degrees Celsius. The outside of the system itself is 32 degrees. So now let's see how loud it is. Just checking the room real quick. It's a noisy room, I guess, 74.9. A foot and a half away, and we're at 83.3 decibels, so you can definitely hear it. And it does have a higher pitch sound, but it's not that loud compared to the rest of the room. So I'm going to say that this unit is way quieter than I expected it to be for the size. All right, it's been 15 minutes, and as you can see, we hit around 74, and it topped out there. So yeah, it's running pretty good. Right around 25.96 watts going through this, which is quite a bit for something this small, but you know, it's super fast. Is this for you, something this small? You know, I see a lot of people saying like, oh, their desktops are better and everything. Well, your desktop's 90 times bigger, but do you need something this small? That's the other thing, is like, who's this for? Is this for someone who goes from place to place? Well, I was talking with someone who works at the Godot Foundation the other day, and they said they needed a tiny PC because they were tired of carrying around a laptop from place to place, and they've got monitors at the office, monitors at home. I'm maybe embellishing this a little bit because I don't know all the details, but they wanted a mini PC. And you know, something like this that's not extremely loud, and it's ridiculously portable, and it uses USB-C for your power. If you had an extra power adapter, this would be really, really easy to take with you from home to the office, and it's going to be okay for game development, especially if you're making you know, indie games in Godot and you're not doing like super ridiculous Unreal Engine stuff with ray tracing or Nanite or whatever. This will be just fine for that. It's also going to be good for people who want to do video editing. It'll do just fine with 4K video, and you want to do it on the go. So it's going to be great for that. If you have a place you have lots of people working on graphics and artwork and sound, and you know, like you have a creative studio, well, you can get a bunch of these for everybody. They're tiny. They're not going to take up everyone's desktop space if you're in a place like that where you need the real estate and you don't have room for a bunch of big desktops everywhere. And this is going to be great for something like that. I really like the direction that we're going with all these mini PCs, and I like that we're seeing some that are rivaling the speed of the big laptops, or sometimes even surpassing the speed of the laptops that have similar parts. So yeah, I'm really impressed with what Minisforum's been doing. It's cool what happens when you get a bunch of enthusiasts together who look at some stuff and say things like, you know what, let's see what we can do with tiny hardware. And they've got a lot of cool different things. So if you need something a little bigger, they probably got something like that. Now, can you get something faster that's custom built for the same amount of money, even if it's 10 times the size? Maybe. And the benefit there is if you're just, you know, sitting at home and you have a lot of space, you know, you want the ability to upgrade, a desktop might be the direction you want to go, like a big desktop. This is a great secondary computer, thirdary computer maybe. If you're going from place to place and playing games at your friend's house, taking your emulators, your RetroArch collection, and going over there, sure. The last thing I want to mention is these tiny PCs make really awesome servers. If you want to install Proxmox on something like this, well, you only have the one Ethernet port in the back. But for a lot of people, if you're just running a bunch of random VMs and you don't need extreme speed on any of those VMs, maybe you're running some Docker containers or Pi-hole or something, this is going to be completely overkill for a lot of that. So you can run a whole bunch of different VMs, web servers. You've got plenty of RAM in here. So yeah, this could be your entire home network. You could replace your entire rack with this and probably be just fine. A lot of people who are out there running extremely loud, power-hungry Dell PowerEdge servers and stuff from 5 or 6 years ago with Xeons, and maybe you got more RAM and whatever. But you know, really, do you need it? You might just be able to get by with this and put this beside your router and your NAS, and you're good to go. That's what I'm using right now. I've got some mini PCs, and I've got a Minisforum mini PC that's specifically designed for that, with a 10 gig Ethernet and a couple of 2.5 gigabit Ethernet slots coming up soon, but that's going to be for like extreme power users. For regular users, this would be a good home server. So anyway, I think I've said enough. The only thing I'd really change is a lot of these things I do wish they were bigger, so they had bigger fans, because the high-pitched noise that the fans make is not pleasant, but it's so quiet that it almost doesn't matter. Like this one, when it's in the floor, I put it in the back of the floor and tested it. Glad I didn't lose it, it's so small, but yeah, I didn't really hear it there. But when it's right up on the desk, you can hear the whir of the high-pitched fan, and it does have that high, you know, like small fan sound, but it's not that loud because they've done a very good job at choosing the right parts. So anyway, that's pretty much all there is to it. Let's talk about a couple sales right now for everybody out there. This is still on sale. I love this keyboard. That's what I'm using right now on my desk. That's on sale, so go ahead and get it while it's on sale. I might change some things. And then I've got these on sale as well. So you can get this because it's what I've been using to do all my testing today, so I feel like dropping the price. So check the Fennec PC wireless controller. Note that these are 2.4 gigahertz, not Bluetooth. So you do have to have direct line of sight with your USB dongle. You can't plug it up to the back and put it behind a monitor. It's not going to work correctly, but 2.4 has less latency than Bluetooth, and for someone like me, that's a huge deal. I Can't be playing Hollow Knight and stuff like that with latency. It's not going to cut it. Anyway, I'll see you in the comments. Let me know what you think of this. It's ridiculous. All right, see you later.